Well, umetimi aka ya ho e wo Facebook Adom 106.3 FM e wo Facebook. Na ode wo comment e de ato ho ye beje be na fe ya kenkan e de ama. Mema Lawyer Kwesi Botwe Junior mema na kwaba. Lawyer
CJ
Bibi aboko de
2 minutes near de
sa
ade achia me ho a ho aye feye de na chese nyame aye bi na aban so aye bi se dia se de na be ma nyankopon no aboye ho ban ahwe
nice
ya ba betina ha de bia me kase nyankopon ton frama nke be ya sema ka edin pa because frama ya de obi a survive yo na nyankopon so in is boy. In fact, say woda asorin kwa alone kwa a big blessing. And you automatically. Yeah, you could then run. I no pay you be an answer. Just by the grace and mercies of God.
That's true.
The evidence yamiase say I no pay dear. Wama yam kwane and one dear. Diabetina ha. Ejayen so ye betche a drink a cra one sem.
Medasepa lawyer ma yenge commercial information ni embra na fe yeba we can settle for the discussion proper enti lawyer Kwesi Botwe Junior representing the NPP ena ote nenkano ma yenge nkratwe ma na fe yeba yenchen komono ase yeba.
I am Wahinere Gifty Auntie. You see, it always feels good when you receive that salary alert. I made a bold decision to invest a lump sum into the Old Mutual Retirement Salary Plan. And this means that I will get these alerts every month throughout retirement for the rest of my life. You too can retire on your own terms or invest a lump sum in the Old Mutual Retirement Salary Plan today and receive a monthly income for the perfect retirement. Call Old Mutual on 050-453-4333 or visit www.oldmutual.com.gh to sign up today. Obrapa Amotongwa.
Old Mutual, do great things every day.
Pesca bebre, mula bebre, kodi bebre, anala Jean bebre. A bready can have game pack for pick 1, any pick 4 agree. Game pack for the more 30 Ghana cedis free. But you may win mula bebre. And yet then cry. Dial *946 hash. Then you 30 Ghana cedis a quaba bonus. Nothing chow better decay. They dink.
Oh wow. And ya mula wow.
For game pack agree so. Nabenya mula bebre. And ya. For gamepackgames.com. Game pack agree. And let me attach it. So and you want to end if you do watch it.
This is James. Leave a message.
James, the game's about to start and everybody's here. Salah's got the meat going, Erling's got the cold ones, Saka's chilling. Where are you, man?
All your best football friends are waiting for you to join them for the Premier League. From 10 August to 10 November, you can get GoTV Super Plus now for the discounted price of 265 CDs to enjoy all 380 games of the Premier League live. Don't wait. Upgrade today. GoTV. Love it. T's and C's apply.
Brennan so afi 2024 latte okuapim ohuma fashion no Drew Hobio na afi ya fashion no sonko esanse nana okuampa donfo manta bebi o otoso mienu ya oye benkum akwamu hene na afei abuasa hene wafro abenya no enfie duonu baako 21 glorious years efi ahinime mecha November boso ne de toso dunson de call ne de toso aduonu nan no latte ebehuru amamra ni amane ya efe na betwa aguo. It's more than a festival. It's a celebration of heritage. Kwesiada bekayeho asafonsa enafei fire jama yenso tete amamra ni amanieja edwada no soso ye tete yapoma nante ye de atwama wiano a de akopia nwumrenum na ye de adwomtofo dodo no a akabom aye concert kese pa ebrada enwumre no yentra nsoma no ase na yentia nansesem anadwumu ni nyina ye de jama competition soso aka ho ukwada no be ye bra ye de ya sida for ye eba na fei okai titi nnuane bi pa uhunu bi ache ne ho competition ye de no so ewe hye so ye wada bra na fa ho beka traditional games okay tete agodie bi te say ampe oware ane ne akeka ho na fei ye the farmers workshop so aka ho efiada the big latte homecoming latte fo nyina befie photo from akansie bekoso na fei street jams rap your pub memenda ene nananom ahemfo ebo data anapano a na fei anwumre no wo favorite artist ebe fru simpie na agiania kosisa ade ebeche kwasiada food festival nebom kayo kwasiada no ohum after party pool party sonko a eno beba so Blue Royal Hotel 2024 latte okuapem ohum afashe aha na mamra ni amanie eni enije Asia.
Hello Ghana, your favorite radio stations are back on TuneIn. Joy FM, Love FM, Adom FM, Asempa FM, and Ensure FM. All your beloved multimedia group brands are now back on TuneIn. Wherever you are, we've got you covered. Yes, Joy FM, Love FM, Adom FM, Asempa FM, and Ensure FM are back on TuneIn. So tune in to the best of news, music, sport, and entertainment from Ghana's top stations anytime, anywhere on TuneIn. Go to the App Store or Google Play Store to download TuneIn and listen to Joy FM, Love FM, Adom FM, Asempa FM, or Ensure FM to stay connected and entertained.
Adom 106.3 FM that's is where video no at the it's 9:30. Shannon so say call all the way up to 10:30 in the morning. Mpensenpensenmu no the bro already seated a member from the MPP communications team, lawyer Kwesi Botwe Jr. Lawyer Ewaha, share a representation from the NDC. No, so Abeka and Komono, na washanim so sa ede amame. Lawyer, Yanshem Komono ase from Enra Supreme Court, Asetna Okoye. And the ruling that came from the Supreme Court sitting Enra, Mijidi said clearly it was something you were expecting, the outcome of the Supreme Court ruling.
I mean, clearly no shasanya in some shasiane idea. In fact, now shake case afenyo marking, respected afenyo marking lawyers. It was, I mean, very clear. The outcome no expected, but for now no, I think it's marriage to the details of the outcome because judgment in Yamba.
Yes.
CJ Chief Justice every treaty say by close of an end or filing judgment now the registry of the court into judgment in the bar. But Wamayati has said 2 judges say dissent or the matter of jurisdiction into no your change judgment in the bar na your Mpensenpensenmu their court no the fact that court in declare say Speaker Babin decision here unconstitutional doesn't necessarily mean that the court agrees with the argument and dispositions of the plaintiff Honorable Alexander Fenyomark and other parties are I think say a better court in the decision, but on the CJ asem we ne free baby na ababedru say Inya yeti ho yenka bi nhemu na one morning ora na Idrisu edi petition come as speaker say what say 4 members of parliament be decide say omo person omo context in the next election on various tickets, maybe from NPP to independent or from independent to NPP or from NDC to independent. And you know, speaker engineer the provisions of article 97 1G and H so now often declare 4 seats in vacant. And ora Haruna Idrisu trust a petition in a majority leader. I can say no petition na Haruna Idrisu atro invite speaker say on declares 4 seats in vacant and underpinnings of constitutional interpretation. I know Rafa Nyomark say about constitutional interpretation wo Ghana hands with the yeni ayaji atum say 1992 constitution no and ye mbra po a embo ye ho ban. Na imrani kire say any matter of constitutional interpretation or enforcement is at the exclusive jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Enti adwuma na Haruna Idrisu invite Speaker Babin say onya no Speaker Babin eni ho kwan under the constitution na mo Supreme Court no ena wo ho kwan. Enti Supreme Court no enhwe na Mpensenpensenmu nim. In fact, the Honorable Alexander Fenyo Makinde Assembly Court Supreme Court no and the hours biana NDC every draw I do petition because mu say my mistake and now if you decided to go by a comment by our leader Honorable Ato Forcing says he say I withdraw petition then we are coming by way of a comment say 4 members of parliament be through actions and inactions e wo mu susu yemu no omu sit na ba be vacant into speaker in declare and a speaker AG debate from members of the house near the idea and a speaker chair say 2 days time 18th October no or the ruling and then the decision on the matter ebeba enti our honor speaker ede the decision on the matter by say ni susu yemu no and adwinimu and his understanding and opinion of the law no the actions and inactions of the 4 members of parliament has amounted to them vacating their seats. But before the speaker didn't rule in Beba, now Ura Fenyo marking on 16th of October, Eddie Assembly Could Supreme Court that the same matter. And the speaker didn't rule in by now Ura Fenyo marking the majority leader said no. Sir 3 members of parliament here Modom NPP caucus no. As a leader of government business, as a majority leader, and as the leader of NPP caucus no. Omo informing me say Omonde caucus ne jaye jumaye. It as the leader and I have every duty and obligation say obebo omo ho ban as members of the caucus. It your call Supreme Court and stay the ruling na ura abamba be dia ba kire say 4 members of parliament and not 3 members of parliament belonging to the NPP no emaye mo access into the chamber of parliament and mo hold you as members of parliament because omo seat na ba be vacant. The court Supreme Court and Supreme Court in the say no asem ye da yenim aye Mpensenpensenmu the speaker has jammed the gun. There was a speaker nyabo tre na nkoma Supreme Court ne kura no e decide asem ni wie enti yes no na Supreme Court no ema a stay of execution of the speaker's ruling. Yes. It's stay of execution e ba no Yenya yehu the course for parliament. In fact, I'm recall a parliament minority for no kotena MPP for akonya so majority for akonya so de in fact ne be more expertise mentem ho ase kakra kra besi but MPP side ni show leadership amma gidigidi ne basabasa ye bia amba e ka so mo betwa ma Supreme Court no ensem e wo ho no mo decide Ura Fenyo Marking first application or the court for stay of execution. It was an ex-party application. Not just say ex-party, just say other parties ne account is Attorney General, any speaker. Ni more kaya say, and I am more notice say ye baby tiasem. And subsequently, and a Supreme Court ne say obey the argument of Attorney General and the speaker's lawyers. Inti court ne tenase na court ne Mpensenpensenmu ni ma speaker lawyers be kasai Attorney General kasai Ura Fenyo Marking so lawyers be kasai into omunya make your argument ni we na Supreme Court ne ka say in fact speaker ni ruling no dey by any there emfa na akwam na name the substantive matter no eye ndra and omo decision ebeba tendra Supreme Court ne tenase and as Chief Justice a kind ruling ni say Omar arrived at a 5-2 majority decision. 2 need dissent on a matter of jurisdiction. But on all other issues, you know, Omunia I agree say Kwanya speaker fast so declare 4 seats vacant, you know. Speaker any home kwanya. Na CJ. Oni mba ya adwen say Ghana high ti ye nia ya gya to mu say constitution in ye embra ye de bebo ye ho bra. That is the Bible of this country. That is the soul and spirit of this country. Our constitution no na a creative parliament. Our constitution na a creative the executive. Our constitution no krona na a creative the judiciary. Constitution na creative parliament, the executive and the judiciary na actually obia roles and functions. There was obia ye and the kwanya e was obia faso ye na dwuma. Constitution na just a parliament. Omo dwuma ne se omo be kire omo be hye mbra. Enyo omo dwuma ne se omo be kire mbram. Parliament hye mbra ni wi a that is the end of their job. Offer the executive omedwuma ne se omo be hye policies executive no enhye mra offer judiciary ne de ne se emra na parliament ahye no omo duty is to interpret and enforce sa emra na parliament ahye no enti no obia wo na adwuma or ye differently from each other obi nyo obi adwuma mented say Supreme Court atena se ahye mra se yemfa 11 bra anema yemfa 11 bra and the parliament adwuma Supreme Court ni say to me Sasuna Ebanu Supreme Court Juma when it comes to the interpretation and enforcement of the Constitution, Parliament clearly doesn't have that power. So the Speaker no me arrogate onto himself powers he clearly doesn't have under the laws now created the office of the Speaker. And you know, Osha is a course in Indiana. Speak even on day now court transecrano. Speaker lawyers understanding of Article 97(1)G and H they different from Ura Fenyomakin lawyers understanding of Article 97(1)H, which clearly raises the fact say a matter of interpretation because two rival meanings are being placed on the same provisions of the law. It is if two rival meanings are being placed on the same provisions of the law, there now one duty say. In my opinion, once two rival meanings or more meanings have been placed on the same position of the law, it even amounts to a constitutional crisis, like a Chief Justice once said. Because this is a case of explanations, baby. Obiasi say, into Supreme Court, the appropriate forum. In fact, cases baby are established say, even if assemble High Court. And I said the Court of Appeal. Now say a matter of constitutional interpretation arises. The High Court or the Court of Appeal would have to stay proceedings and refer some matter to the Supreme Court for interpretation, as is provided in Article 130 of the 1992 Constitution, and even in the case of ex partisan Attorney Rawlings. It principles are establishing since time memorial, and nena some principles na here. And clearly no ruling now Speaker in some and I think say right from the onset Speaker acting in excess of the powers of the office of the Speaker, because Speaker needs out to me and I think say and that decision thereby, and it's a win for democracy, it's a win for rule of law, it's a win for constitutionalism. This is how we embrace our democracy. CJ, call Nigeria every now and then litigate on our constitution, and that is what has improved the constitution of Nigeria. And I think Ghana so no dear into some of these things Emma among who say tokwa anase bibi embra wo ho ayede mbra ya adwuma Supreme Court na kasa, and once Supreme Court na kasa no, everybody in this country is bound by the decision of the Supreme Court. And the decision of the Supreme Court remains what the law is. While Phyllis on the Supreme Court you have every right to go for review for the Supreme Court to review its decision. But once Obian call for review, no, and as a Supreme Court in review of decision, the Supreme Court that is what the law is. Who disobey the consequences and punishment are provided by the same Constitution. Say what to them for a period not exceeding 10 years. And I have heard several commentaries say Speaker Baben bet me this NDC MPs ni be say any Supreme Court for an Parliament. Now sitting arrangement no more I hope so what TV.
Yes.
I think it's a very, very infantile and unfortunate argument for anybody to make.
Because Speaker in the press conference, he said when asked the question, say enti you call Parliament, minority for better left and some better right, and I say BBC. Speaker said, say and no duty. So better baby group be entna. So then who's
I think say Sansem Speaker so another unfortunate commenter about out, because if you are the Speaker of Parliament, you are the superintendent over Parliament. You oversee Parliament. And that is why you call yourself number 3. You call yourself number 3 because you believe say Parliament echelonsa. And if sitting arrangement our Parliament whose duty it is to make sure that the right thing is being done. In any case, clerks in the staff of our Parliament, they all report to the Speaker. Speaker is the head of Parliament, properly so called. It say maintain once you when you be about Parliament. Speaker, now you father of the house. Now beti match say we muntina ha na we muntina ha. Chief Justice any say to me President any say to me IGP any say to me be any say to me by law. And the Speaker now was say to me. If Speaker is running away from that duty, then honestly I don't know who else has that duty to make sure say minority for better na Speaker benkum na majority for atina ni nifa. Speaker would duty say obe ensure say the right thing is being done. This is Minya member of Parliament, CJ member of Parliament, yet me fire nyama enkwatena the chamber of Parliament. Yet to Speaker to be pamoya and ameboa. I don't Speaker to be pamoya because he's the superintendent of our Parliament. A judge no be akwatena obi akonya so na say improper. and I say the proper place was on Motina. I don't know what mean directly or say baby or Motina. In fact, I think there's a day the speaker he press a no yeah in the crown. I doing what I mean tears. You
think it was necessary?
Totally unnecessary. Absolutely totally. To every extent it was unnecessary because some of the things he said, I don't think say proper for our democracy because as a whole Speaker of Parliament to say that you respect the supremacy of the law, but you don't respect the supremacy of the Constitution. I mean, what's the meaning of that? Nobody has said that supremacy of the law, but you don't respect the supremacy of the Supreme Court. Nobody has said that the Supreme Court is supreme. What we are all saying is that they are the apex court of the land. And then no constitution in aka, and you'll be an eka. Constitution now, am I swear who speaker in? That is the same constitution saying that Supreme Court is the apex and number one court of this country. And if as Christopher sorry, a soft na church Bible muchre that is the same way constitution is the Supreme Court no and a better constitution him. It took us all the sorry so software then which means we Christo ni awahwe and Supreme Court no and what the powers and the authority properly so called say your constitution in your brown pon and I say imbrabiana a walk room han or mube chirichirimu at the pepe your abai. So we all have to respect the Supreme Court for the role they play. And you see, in the intelligence of a more mature constitution, almost say the jurisdiction of interpretation and enforcement and a exclusive jurisdiction, not to say a jealous jurisdiction, or be any who quite say. Or yes, I do man. A Supreme Court in Nkwan, so we have to respect the Supreme Court and give the Supreme Court the necessary action, respect and dignity it deserves. Because CJ, unim say even in times of war, and in times of successive governments in previous, Republican constitutions have overthrown the constitution. Not judiciary, was operating. Sabi say ku si wo kuro bi mu a executive in the parliament enya adwuma but judiciary need the enya adwuma. Even in times of war the judiciary works. It's judiciary one arm of government. We all as Ghanaians have a duty incumbent upon us say you be protected the sanctity and respect of the judiciary. What's that? Because of political affiliations and whatever it is, and the Supreme Court in from NPP will come and go, NDC will come and go, but the Supreme Court will remain the Supreme Court of this country. And so we can do our politics all right. As politicians, we can do our politics and all that. But in doing our politics, let us try as much as possible not to drag Supreme Court into the mud whilst politics. Because in few years to come, we will not even have any country to call Ghana. Because they say, BBS or BID in a Supreme Court. And so let us stop the habit. Say they're not court in then we start calling the court names. I mean, you drag your court into dispute and all those things. Because as some way you copy a court. In fact, in every stretch of imagination, there was no way the speaker's lawyers, respectfully, my humble opinion, had a very valid case. Because sad doctrine of carpet crossing a crowd, they buy and they say. After your first Republican Constitution in 1960, the people of the Northern People's Party, NCPP, now Nkrumah as president, intimidating the people of the Northern People's Party. Until you find some MPs of the Northern People's Party crossing carpet to CPP because they feared intimidation and harassment from the then president who was a CPP president. And as a result of that, into the 1969 Constitution, and the Legislative Assembly said no. In order to avoid any executive president intimidating members of parliament, you find a carpet crossing. I say two Obama as CJ member of parliament for Adom FM. Only Adom FM for a social contract for a term, which is 4 years. Yeah. So 4 years, I had to Obama on the ticket of multimedia. I a political party say be MP for Adom FM no. What you mean by Adom FM? Me say okay, multimedia na dem about Adom FM. So me be do Adom FM we mene obi fufuro kwa akoye adwuma. Ana many media house fufuro kwa akoye adwuma. Oh yes, now you have cross carpet within the section of parliament. But a multimedia for the Adom FM as a member of parliament for Adom FM. That's what I say. In the next term, in the next term, many Adom FM adwuma because Adom FM for chire mi shegi. It's in the next time me person me hits FM. Ekoye adwuma. I think say clearly no one who can say oh yes sir.
But where the party constitution is clear clear, and I'm referring to MPP Party Constitution Article 9.
Right.
It's clear on say obi across carpet and say obi say obe contested as an independent candidate. Your party constitution is clear.
That is a very good question. And you see, when it comes to the principle of carpet crossing, you have two ways I see. You are by express conduct and you are by implied conduct. Express conduct is when you write clearly to the party, say, me a member of parliament of MPP, but many party ne jaya jumaye. Me person me call NDC. Oko NDC once you have crossed the carpet to the other aisle, and I say to the other political divide, that is when carpet crossing comes in place. But if Oka say many MPP are jumaye and so many NDC for juma, that does not amount to carpet crossing. CJ, do you understand?
Me too.
Carpet crossing means say who free MPP within the same term of parliament. Echo NDC. But to say me free MPP, and as I many MPP for nyadwin, now to me join the NDC here. In my respected and humble opinion, I do not think say that amounts to carpet crossing properly so called. Because unim your constitution in Krana, there are so many times the constitution of the NPP was made for the people of NPP. And yet Ghana had constitution, a organization be constitution.
Yeah.
Constitution na say the National Council of the party, which is the highest decision-making body of the party, has the right in times of certain, situations to modify aspects of the constitutions to, fit the prevailing circumstances. Intina ye koto ye November 4th ni we
yes.
Top 5 nipa mienu bo bracket honorable Kojopoko ne honorable Ejakon. Enya 4 ye say ye be run off. National Council tenase, and the largest decision-making body of the party. There will not be any runoff. In fact, the away winning, young November 4th, the away winning, non-winning, there will not be any runoff. There are so many times party modify aspect of the constitution to fit prevailing circumstances. And as of now, I do not think I have seen any letter from NPP saying they have forfeited the membership, and I say Ura Cynthia Morris and other Yenuanum account are forfeited or membership. I haven't seen any letter. Maybe if you have seen that, you can read for me. And so as of now, by presumption, we can all presume say there are still maybe people doing business with the NPP, but maybe in the next Parliament, no, decided say money MPP for because there hasn't been any express communication from that sort. In the case of the Fomena issue, there was an express communication from the party to the speaker. And I think the reason why Speaker Okwe did what he did was because, let me give you a classical example. CJ, respect with the fact me use for example, but for clarity, you are the host of the show. You have a producer.
Yes.
Your producer also reports to the boss.
Yes.
So if the boss, being the New Patriotic Party, writes to the producer, which is the speaker, said the member of parliament, CJ, has forfeited his membership with us, and so don't allow CJ to hold himself as an MPP MP, and writes it to your producer, which is the speaker. Your producer has no other alternative than to implement what the boss, the party has said. But what did I make party no any waba. Speaker, who they are superintendent of a parliament. Party ne say ura for me na MP ene ne nya adwuma biem. Yene ne nya adwuma biem na mo de ama speaker no. You speaker no otimi nka se me ne party ne nya.
Lawyer unyi ni say eno so ne presidents speaker refer to the 2020 presidents ogina so e de ema sa community.
No, but you see that cannot be the precedents, because these two are distinct examples you are making.
And
in one leg,
yes.
There was a communication from the party saying, the member of parliament has been removed as a member of the party. In the case of Esiama, in the current case, party Bernard, even the NDC hasn't even letter be a crown comma speaker say or more Memphis Central candidate and a crown or me in a free NDC. There hasn't been any communication
to constitution interest.
Oh no, it's not about your constitution. It's about communicating to the speaker the decision of the party. So what I said, that was what happened in the case of MPP. In fact, here we are, Joe Sewusu, Oko independent in somewhere in 2008. I don't think the MPP for troll letter say Joe Sewusu as a member of the party. He still conducted his business as a member of parliament. So what I say, and even on the next subsequent election, or somebody back to contest on the ticket of the MPP. So I don't know say and also a president I follow. SCG, that is also a precedent. Why are we not following the precedent of the case of the Bekwai MP and the Yulo Krobo MP? But we are saying we are following the precedent of Formina MP. Even in that circumstance, facts and crying the same. So how do you marry the two? And two very, very distinct, scenarios. And I think clearly, from every stretch of imagination, Speaker Babin Ed, in my humble opinion.
But your senior lawyer, Martin Pebu, is advising the Speaker to resist this ruling. And in legal terms, I don't know how the Speaker can maybe go back on this case, Supreme Court, but that is the advice. Babin must resist Supreme Court ruling.
In fact, greetings to respected Martin Pebu.
Your senior.
That is his opinion, and I mean he's entitled to it. And you see, like I've said, other jurisdictions are more litigated or more constitution. Now, my constitution is more about you drew. And you can. I do not think the right phrase to use is resist. Maybe to challenge the ruling by way of a review, but to say to resist, somebody can imply, say, decision in I don't know if that is what he means. If that is what it means, then I think it's an affront to our constitution and affront to our democracy. To seek to suggest, Supreme Court the ruling about you are advising somebody not to work with the ruling or not to respect the ruling. If you say that, then I disagree humbly with what my respected senior has said. I totally disagree because the law has laid down procedures. Only Supreme Court about a judgment. You take those channels, those routes to address your grievances or whatever challenges you may have. But to say respect their Supreme Court in a Canada, a high crime of treason.
Okay, so let me quote Lawyer Martin.
Yes,
so
for clarity.
We can get proper understanding. Okay, so he says he has shown that he here means the Speaker. The Speaker has shown that he's not happy. He says there's a collusion between the judiciary and the executive. That is the Speaker's words, right? Yeah. So this decision will reinforce the Speaker's views that he doesn't agree, and so you are going to expect some pushbacks from the Speaker. Yeah, and it's good for our democracy. So, unquote. That is Lawyer Martin Kubu.
So, like I have said, once there is a judgment from the Supreme Court, whether or not you agree is totally immaterial. If you agree or you don't agree, your business is to obey the decision of the Supreme Court.
You are bounded.
If you think you are man enough, disobey the decision of the Supreme Court. And you see, I will even be happy, okay, if Speaker Babin decides to disobey the decision of the Supreme Court to say still now 4 seats in vacant. Do you know why? Because your constitution for the first time in the history of this country, a Speaker of Parliament will be on trial for contempt. For the first time. And it is all good. You see, some of these novelties, it is good. Because if you disobey it, the law will work. CJ, but until you are at the wrong side of the law, that is when you will know, say, Juma. And if Speaker dares, I know Speaker is a senior lawyer, he will not try to do that. If Speaker dares to disrespect the judgment of the Supreme Court to say, our 4 members of Parliament, still, it is possible that I am anticipating that Speaker might be a candidate for jail. If Speaker refuses to respect the decision of the Supreme Court, he may be a candidate for jail. And so let him tread cautiously. Let everybody tread cautiously. Senior Beya, you will not force the Supreme Court to a point, say, they would have to exert or implement or enforce the provisions of Article 3, Article 4, and the consequences. Never say, Constitution is clear. Say even the president or the vice president who disobey the decision of the Supreme Court, you are liable to a term of imprisonment not exceeding 10 years. There is no opportunity for a fine, or there is no opportunity for communal labor. Law near clear say a term of imprisonment not exceeding 10 years. I'm sure the Speaker, no, he knows better. The Speaker will not do that. And in fact, it is not about the personal interest. This matter, in my opinion, is not about the Speaker of Parliament. It is about the rule of law. It is about what the Constitution says, and it's about respect for constitutionalism and the supremacy of the Constitution. Let's take it out. Say, individuals, maybe Honorable Afenyo Market majority leader versus Speaker Babin. That is not what it is. If you're sharing this idea, the interest in the high, tempers will be high.
But lawyer, yes, maybe the lessons we can draw from this back and forth are also for some time, especially at the top, separation of powers, our understanding, and maybe what we can learn from the ECOSI, and how we can maybe in the near future put our constitution in place if there are any amendments that needs to be done going forward. Lawyer.
So I think so going forward, Ghana courts, the decisions be about the recent case of Justice Abdullahi na court na clearly Justice Kulendi in his dispositions clearly say the political question doctrine enye juma o Ghana ha constitution a Ghana for nya ya atum say ne mre bedi anim akyere kwan a obia amfa so nya na juma. All the three arms of government say a more bia and crosse ne nyonko. And even though there is the concept or the doctrine of separation of powers is enforceable in this country, there's also the doctrine of checks and balances. So even though say obia ye na juma no law na kyere say there are times Parliament etimi check the Supreme Court. Supreme Court etimi check Parliament. And one of those mechanisms when say you appointed judge of the Supreme Justice of the Supreme Court. From Parliament for vetting. It took vetting. It is one of the way Parliament is scrutinizing the people that are appointed onto the apex court of this country.
The Honourable Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Honourable Mutala Mohammed, Meneno and Cheche and Komo. It's saying to me a representation in studio for the NDC. I think it's only proper say Mene Honourable Ebechuchen Komo. Honourable say what's Adom FM
good morning. I don't know who was talking on the background, and I really would want to know.
Okay, so representing the New Patriotic Party is lawyer Kwesi Boche Jr., who is a member of the MPP National Communications Team. Your Honourable.
So he said the separation of powers or the checks, as far as Parliament is concerned, is only reduced to just approving the Supreme Court justices. Is that what he said? And beyond that, he thinks that Parliament shouldn't have anything to do as far as checking even the conduct of the judiciary is concerned. If that is what I understood him say.
Yes, I think that's the bit that I put you on, but he had made some points before you joined.
Checks and balances.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely far from that. Those who propounded those theories, the likes of Professor Montesquieu, John Locke and co., I think the political activists or politicians in Ghana, we need to read them very well. And when I also heard him say that in Justice Abdullahi case, it was ruled that the political question won't work in Ghana. Political question must work and ought to work in every single democracy. Every single democracy. And it has been working in America. It has been working in the United Kingdom. In fact, it has been working in Europe, even in France, who have some weird kind of democracy they practice. The political question does work. So I'm surprised to hear that the ruling of a court on the matter of Justice Abdullahi was that a political question can work in Ghana. Then we must as well abandon the democracy we are practicing. The need for us to have separation of powers, checks and balances is to ensure that you don't give so much power to one arm at the disadvantage of the other, such that it will not be used arbitrarily. That is what. So political question is sine qua non to democratic governance. There can't be an exclusion that in a particular country in democracy, political question can work. If that is the position, then God save this country. Political question is not only necessary, it's essential as far as demonstrating the independence of the three arms of government. And in any case, I have been saying this, and I don't know how many times I have to make this point, that in as much as the three arms are all supposed to have equal powers, so that there can be a kind of D10P to the extent that one arm will not be able to abuse the power that is given to it by the people of this country. But when it comes to democracy, does he know that Parliament is even more important? Parliament is an ingredient that once it is missing, there can't be a democracy. But you can have a democracy even without judiciary. But you cannot have democracy without Parliament. And that is why even so you can have a government without Parliament, but you can't have democracy without Parliament. And that is why in military dictatorship, you can still have the judiciary operating. It may be checked, it may be controlled by the military junta, but it will operate in a way, and you would have the executive operating, but you can't have Parliament operating. And that is why any time there is a truncation of any democratic governance, the first arm they attack is the legislature. I'm not saying in this case that Parliament should be given more recognition and the work and the position of Parliament should supersede any other arm of government. I'm just stating a fact that in a democracy, Parliament is the most important, essential element among the three arms. And most importantly, between these two arms, the legislature and the judiciary. To that extent, I'm not too sure in the matter of this issue and why your producer called me, even though initially I didn't want to get engaged. But just because of the reverence and respect I have for the media, that has occasioned this engagement.
Thank you.
My point is simple. Did the Supreme Court rule as to where the NDC sits or where NPP sits?
No.
Is that what they ruled?
No.
And is there any provision in the 1992 Constitution that states where minority and majority sits? There is no provision in the Constitution. It is just a convention. And if you remember, I listened to Honorable Afeni Markins, and I was shocked whether he was talking about Ghana. He said, among others, that people must respect some decency, and that he has so much respect for the Speaker, and that they respect the Constitution, and that is why they are calling on the NDC to, first and foremost, even a toddler knows in this country who listened to Afeni when he was ranting and using vulgar words against the Speaker, that he has no iota of respect for the Speaker. So he should not try to pretend now that he respects the Speaker. Everybody in this country knows. And two, on this look at this Parliament, on the night we elected the Speaker, we were defending the Constitution, we in NDC, and they were attacking the Constitution. Is that not a fact? Isn't that a fact? The Constitution says, among others, that in an election of a Speaker, the voting must be done through a secret ballot. Is that not what the Constitution says? Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm listening to you, Honorable.
Isn't what the Constitution says?
Yes.
The standing orders also say same. The MPP leadership, including Afenyo, they were seeking to have an open ballot in violation of the constitutional provision and the standing orders. And we said that won't happen. So between we and they, who was defending the Constitution and who demonstrated decency? Decency. They commandeered armed military men into the chamber. That was what they did. Armed military men. Between we and they, who is talking about decency? Look, we agreed as a... And let me also make this point. And I want you to answer me that question. Do you have a majority party in Parliament?
With the current
the independent
Parliament.
member of Parliament only agreed to sit and voting with the MPP.
Absolutely.
It doesn't make him a member of the MPP. And you remember this issue as to where we sit started on the very day the Speaker was elected. But President Mahama had to intervene and spoke with us. We didn't go and sit there because we were afraid. Or they could have forced us to do so. We did so because we love this country. And we did so because we listened to our leadership. And what President Mahama intervened, said, okay, fine, let's go and sit there. Look, 99% of the work of this government in this Parliament, they succeeded in that indeed generated a lot of heat in the House. We resolved the true consensus building. Now, it is very clear that these people care less about consensus building. It is very clear that they think that they can use certain institutions, to torpedo the NDC. In any case, go and read that barometer report. The independence of institutions in this country have waned. drastically under this government.
Yeah, that's
Don't
true.
take my words. Read Afrobarometer report. The independence of state institutions under this government has gone bonkers. So between we and they, who wants to ensure the independence, the sanctity of state institutions? And if you look at the facts, and that's why I would tell my friends, don't play the man, play the ball. Go and look at the facts on the ground. So I'm saying that, look, we agreed to sit, and how petty. For me, it is pettiness. And if you listen to their leadership, the argument is that we need to sit at the right. Absolutely petty.
No, but Honorable, when Speaker says it is not his duty to determine who sits where, and yesterday there was a discussion going on, and someone was saying that then it means that the Supreme Court should come to Parliament and determine who sits on the left,
the Supreme Court has no capacity, and I say this with all the seriousness, or authority to determine to Parliament how Parliament works. They don't have that capacity. What the Supreme Court did was to interpret the legality or otherwise of the action of the Speaker, because that is the exclusive jurisdiction they have. And that is why I had problem when he said in a ruling of Justice Abdullahi that the political question doesn't work in Ghana. How ridiculous. The Supreme Court cannot determine to Parliament how Parliament works. The Supreme Court can only interpret actions of Parliament on the basis of those actions, whether those actions are in sync with law. And nobody argues about that. But to come, is it a judicial question? The Supreme Court comes to Parliament and says that NBC sits here, NPP sits here. Then what kind of Supreme Court would we be operating, or what kind of judicial system would we be operating in this country? That is not a judicial question. It's a political question. And I can understand why they are now saying that in the ruling of Justice Abdullahi case, political question doesn't work in Ghana. How ridiculous. How ridiculous.
But Honorable Mutala, is the NDC group ready to return to the chamber if called upon?
To tell you the truth,
yes, sir.
When your producer called me,
yes,
I told your producer that on the issue of they guide Dr. Atufosin and the leadership, they determined to ask what we do. Like I said, I agreed to honor this interview because of the reverence and the respect I have for the media.
Yes, sir.
Even I wouldn't have engaged. And I told her, look, on the basis of ABC, there are some questions in political activity.
Yes.
Why? They invited us. They triggered Article 1123 and Standing Order 63 and brought us to Parliament. When they brought us to Parliament, were they prepared to work? My brother,
no.
They triggered. Yes, they brought us to Parliament. Now listen to Afenyo once again. And he said that when we raised the issue, the Speaker went to chamber. Parliament starts officially at 10 o'clock. The Speaker came to Parliament almost 11. They were nowhere to be found. The Speaker said, we don't even have an agenda. We don't have other paper. And then we had a quorum per Article 102 of the 1992 Constitution to commence business. But we didn't have the quorum to commence sitting. But we didn't have quorum to take decisions. Now, when the Speaker adjourned, Afenyo granted interview and said that they were, in fact, some of them said they were on their way to the chamber. And one of them, Afenyo, even said that he didn't go for the business committee meeting because we already knew the purpose for the recall. How ridiculous. How ignorant as to what the business committee does. And his simple explanation and understanding of the business committee meeting is to set agenda. The business committee is meant to build consensus on the agenda. And therefore, the business committee meeting is not only necessary but essential. Usually, in the normal parliamentary sitting, when the business committee meets and even agreed on the programs for the week, they will bring it to chamber on Friday. And I believe you have been to Parliament before.
Yes.
They will bring it to Parliament on Friday for the entire House to approve the programs. And then I need to attend the business committee meeting because we knew the agenda. He also went ahead to say that it is only they have business, it's a business of government, that both the Speaker and the NDC have no capacity to call for business committee meeting. How ridiculous. Now, assuming you call for a business committee meeting, and the Speaker and his clerks, who are all members of the business committee, including the NDC leadership, decide not to attend, can you have a full understanding of business committee meeting was to set agenda was not only funny, but ridiculous. And again, the business, and we have instances where government brings business. And at the business committee meeting, they do amendments, they change. 2, the business committee meeting is to afford the leadership of the business committee to inform the entire members as to the program we'll be looking at within the week. And therefore, after the business committee meeting, what they arrive at will be added into other paper. So the other paper would then be distributed among members of parliament. And 3, the business committee meeting is also meant, or it is also held, to determine the arrangement of the program in order of importance. In economics, they say, what's the name? In order of reference. That is how a preference, that is how you arrange it. Now you have a leader who says the business committee meeting, because we knew what the program was, it wasn't necessary. And in fact, he refused to attend the business committee meeting. No other paper. The morning of that sitting, usually what they do is that the leadership and parliament and the speaker will then go into conclave so that the speaker can reaffirm the decisions arrived that morning. They refuse to come to conclave. And in fact, there have been plethora of evidences where at the conclave, the business committee meetings programs are also amended and changed by government. Now you have a leader who says that, no, I didn't go there because everybody knew the program and there wasn't any need. And how simplistic can a leader of the House understand just the business committee meeting to be just for the purposes of agenda? And it's ridiculous. So I'm simply saying that, look, they did that, they dragged us. I was in my farm. In fact, I had to even, we are all in our constituency. I had to find just 2-3 days to go and supervise the harvesting of my rice in the village. When I needed to come, I left there around 3 a.m., got to Tamale by 6 and took a flight straight to Accra, only for us to come. And they caused financial loss to the state. They had no agent business. They were not prepared. They didn't want to come. They held press conference and used all manner of words against the speaker. I have never seen in a democracy where a member of an arm of government thinks that he must attack that arm. He must attack that arm for political expediency. It's just like have a judge, let's say one of the justices of the Supreme Court, attacking the Supreme Court. How do you think the Supreme Court will take it?
Okay.
Or you have a minister or a deputy minister attacking the president, the government. How do you think they will take it? Oh, by Parliament they can do that because they want to satisfy a political interest. And that is why I have always been advocating, let's decouple this constitutional provision that ties the arm of the president in appointing more than 50% of his ministers from Parliament and our Parliament alone. And then we can see a true independence of the legislature.
All right.
But I'll conclude on this. The reason why Afenyo Martins and his bunch of MPs could not sit in the chamber is because they don't have the numbers. He's unable to commandeer his members. They don't have the numbers. Look, if they had the numbers, it doesn't matter where the NDC majority sits. They could have sat there and then had the business. It's because they don't have the numbers. His people have consistently deserted him.
Okay. Honorable, many thanks for your time, for joining us this morning. We are grateful.
I appreciate it.
Honorable Mutala Muhammad, a member of Parliament, Tamale Central, and yeneno atwetwe enkomo engineer say yedeno ebem na yenyasa balance. No, with me in the studio, lawyer Kwesi Botwe Jr. Lawyer, what Honorable Mutala Muhammad? I'm saying yes.
I mean, respectfully and humbly, I think that the member of Parliament is very wrong because he may have his opinion that it should apply in Ghana, or in his opinion, say maybe it ought to apply in Ghana. But CJ, as I speak to you respectfully, my humble opinion, the Supreme Court has held in the case of Justice Abdullahi that the doctrine of the political question does not apply in this country called Ghana. And that is what the law is. Until that decision has been set aside, that is what the law is. And respectfully, maybe the learned member of parliament should go back and read the decision of Justice Abdullahi versus Attorney General. Then he will come to the conclusion that the doctrine of political question clearly by the Supreme Court doesn't apply in Ghana. In fact, Justice Kulendi in that case went ahead to explain that other countries, be to say UK, member of parliament, making reference to say in established democracies like the UK, the political doctrine question applies in the UK. So why doesn't it apply in Ghana? If you take the UK practices a Westminster Parliament. They practice a parliamentary supremacy over constitutional supremacy. That is not what we have in this country. Ghana practices parliamentary supremacy. We practice the doctrine of constitutional supremacy. And so, once we practice the doctrine of constitutional supremacy, the political doctrine question, I am not saying doesn't apply in Ghana. The Supreme Court says it doesn't apply in Ghana. I don't know where the member of parliament is coming from that the doctrine of political question.
Let me read this. I just found this from Graphic Online. So, sorry. In the Justice Abdullahi versus Attorney General 2022, Kulendi JSC, in delivering the unanimous judgment of the Supreme Court, stated categorically, this court has predominantly on the preponderance of the authorities long held the view that the political question doctrine does not apply within our jurisdiction.
And so if a member of parliament comes to tell you that the political doctrine questions applies in this country, who has lied here? Respectfully, who has lied? That is what the court says. If you disagree that their court in Akano, in fact, most lawyers have criticized the decision of the Supreme Court. Lawyers are trained to criticize decisions of the court. But if you criticize the decision of the court, that doesn't negate the fact that that remains the law. So as and now that I may have my own opinion about the doctrine of political question applying in Ghana or not applying in Ghana. But as and now, I am bound by the decision of the Supreme Court. The member of parliament is bound by the decision of the Supreme Court. It's Ghana higher tier practices separation of powers. Then so the doctrine of the political question say, Obikrabe is just a doctrine of the political question and then the abade. CJ, and only say in Sembi or Honoma. What political underpinnings are, it is left solely for maybe the legislature or the executive to decide and not for the judiciary. But in this country, every matter, once it's justiciable, can be resolved and concluded upon by the courts. Court no who kwan say matter bia a justiciable bia no, they will decide and deliberate upon it. And you know that their member of parliament in kind of front to baby because that is not true. Again, he makes the case that we haven't had a majority side of parliament since 2021. I think that is also an unfortunate statement to make because since 2021, who has been one with the prosecuting government business? One with the initiating government business? And in their standing orders, I am not a member.
It's the MPP.
I am not a member of parliament.
It's the MPP because the independent parliamentary candidate decided to do business.
I'll come there.
Yes.
I am not a member of parliament.
Yes.
I have never been one. And I don't think I want to be one yet. But in their standing orders, I know that once you are recognized as the majority in the House, you are the one with the authority to initiate government business. So what you are saying? And once, by inference, if MPP and initiating government business, MPP and the leaders of the various committees or what have you are, then by inference, one may stand to reason and to argue that then NDC have admitted that since 2021, MPP is the majority side of parliament. In any case, how were they referring to Yera Chairman Sabonso? CJ, 2021, Mitio Fred Chairman Sabonso, now friend is saying, you were referring to him as majority leader. Alright, friend, you're marking before this 4 vacant seat controversy. I have listened to you times with that number, our friend with videos where you have referred to him as majority leader. So the question is now, what has changed? What has changed? Nothing has changed for NDC to say now they are the minority. We have been referring to you people over the last 3 and 9 months or 10 months as the minority, and you people have accepted it. After 24 days to election, after I must see a majority. You see, this argument doesn't hold because MPP has been a majority since 2021. And also, the MP also makes the case that even in times of, Parliament is very important in safeguarding our democracy and all those things. I agree. But you see, arms of government, they are all equal. Equally. And that is why in the framers of the constitution, it's not Jimono. They have provided for any rules and functions in the constitution. Arms of government, I have maintained that separation of powers here, Juma, checks and balances here, Juma. We cannot practice a political doctrine question in this country when about 2/3 of your ministers are from Parliament. If we want to practice the political doctrine question, then CJ, we should go and learn from the Westminster